So what are the true costs of actually starting a rent-to-rent business? In this video, I'm going to be breaking this down in great detail. So make sure you're sticking with me all the way because you need to know all this information I'm about to share with you. Now, look, if you take value from this video, make sure you're hitting that like button. Without further ado, let's get started with it. Now, the first thing that you want to bear in mind when it comes to cost of actually starting up with a rent-to-rent business is actually setting up the actual business itself. So this would be setting up your limited company. This would be setting up your website, joining the right schemes, etc., etc. And then after this is not a must, but potentially you're wanting to educate yourself and join a training program or a mentorship. So that's also something to keep in mind as well. And then after this, the cost of actually taking on a property itself. Now I'm going to go into detail into each area and also give you different ways that you can get around things as well. Because I've worked with many clients that have started off at different positions, some even only starting off with a couple of £1,000s, but then getting to the point where they're able to scale their business past 10 properties in the first year. So definitely don't limit or restrict yourself to the funds that you have, because there are multiple different ways that you can get around this. So look, when it comes to the cost of actually setting up your business, you have your limited company, you have your website, and you also have you becoming a part of the correct schemes. This is, for example, the PRS. This is a scheme that all property professionals in the UK have to join. You also have the ICO, or the Information Commission's Office, that you have to pay around £40 a year to become a part of too, and a few other little bits and pieces as well. I would say you're probably looking at around a couple of £100 to get all of these things done. The website is probably going to be the most expensive part. However, you can reduce that cost by simply creating the website yourself by using platforms like GoDaddy or Squarespace and using template websites that they provide. Okay, so we've got that out of the way now. Now, if we're looking at getting ourselves trained and educated, now we need to look at the cost implications involved with this. Now, look, if you're looking to join a program or a mentorship, obviously this is going to vary when it comes to the costs of doing that, or maybe you want to take yourself down the self-education route. You can definitely do that 100%. I'm putting out loads of YouTube videos as well, so you can feel free to binge all of them just so you have a very good idea of how this strategy works and how you can also go about getting started off with it yourself. However, the only thing I would say when it comes to getting started off with it yourself and also, getting educated from a coach, mentor, etc., is just a time difference. So if you're going through a coaching program to get yourself educated, that will likely fast track the progress that you make compared to you self-educating and doing it yourself, because it's going to take you a lot longer to figure things out. And a lot of the times you will have to go through trial and error to test what works and what doesn't. And obviously that's going to come with a lot of time that you spend, and it's also going to come with quite a lot of mistakes, some of which can cost quite a bit of money. But look, if you don't mind taking your time with it, potentially losing some money with it just to learn from all of that, 100%. Taking the self-education route can definitely be something that you can do. And there are definitely people out there that do that 100% and they actually make it work. But I would say, typically speaking, it does take them a bit longer. But of course, going back to what I said before, if you're choosing to go down the coaching program path, then this can fast track it. I'll give you an example. I've got students, clients of mine that I've got started off with the program, and in less than a year, they were able to take on 10, 12, even 15 properties. I've got one of my students whose name's Andrew, who within the space of a year and a half was able to start generating £10,000 per month from his business. And these are just a few examples. But look, not only that as well, even when it comes to you taking on deals for yourself, there are different ways to get around this. Let's say even if you don't have the most amount of money, this could be you raising finance from investors. This could be you potentially starting off with deal sourcing, where you're selling deals to investors for a fee to save up enough money to put forward into your own deals. Or maybe it involves you offering landlords a management service to where instead of you focusing on taking on their properties as a rent-to-rent, you're telling the landlord, hey, Mr. Landlord, I will offer to manage your property for you and run it as a service accommodation. And in exchange, I'm going to charge you a commission of 15% per month. I've got many of my clients that are focusing on the management model. Quite a lot of them have taken on deals that are generating them a decent amount. And mind you, to take on these deals won't cost you a penny, because the landlord will have to pay for everything because you're just simply managing it on his behalf. Again, this is where the knowledge is so crucial to actually allow you to do these different things that I mentioned. Now look, when it actually comes to taking on a rent-to-rent property itself, how much would you actually need to go about doing this? Now, what I will say is that it really does depend, and it depends on a few things. First and foremost, it depends on the location, because some locations are going to be more expensive than others, which means you're going to have to pay more upfront rent and also an upfront deposit as well to match the first month's rent. But not only that as well, some properties may come fully unfurnished. You have to furnish the whole property itself, which is obviously going to cost you more money compared to if you were to take on a property that came partly furnished or that came fully furnished and you weren't spending any money on furniture. Not only that as well, what's the condition of the property like? If the property itself is in a very bad condition, then of course you may be required to spend more money to get it to a certain standard compared to you taking on a property that isn't a good quality already. Now look, I've said before that typically speaking, anywhere between £5,000 to £7,000 can be a decent starting point for you to start taking on deals for yourself. However, that's not to say that you couldn't start taking on deals for less as well, because for me, I've taken on rent-to-rent deals in the past where I've literally only paid a couple £100 up front. So it's definitely possible to take on these deals without spending the most amount of money up front to it. And that deal right there that I mentioned that I only spent a couple £100, the reason why was because I had negotiated not to pay the first month's rent because I included a rent-free period. I had negotiated not to pay a deposit for that property, and also it came fully furnished. Everything was fully ready. All I did was take it on, start getting bookings, and then from the money that I made with the bookings that I got, I used that to pay the rent. And the extra couple £100 I ended up spending on that property was just on little props to make it look nicer. But look, let's say for example, you're getting started off in London. Obviously London, the rent is a lot more. So you're going to be required to put up a lot more as well. I would say in London, a decent range would be anywhere between £7,000 to £10,000. That would be a much more decent range in London, I would say. But of course, we're not including areas that are stupid expensive like central London or areas in the zone 1 area where, you know, the rent is £4,000 or £5,000 per month, maybe even more. So when it comes to the cost of actually getting started off in rent-to-rent, everything I've just broken down to you is everything involved with you getting started off with it. Now, having said that, like I said before, it's not so much to say that, oh, if you've only got £5,000, you can't get started off with this. Completely wrong. Because like I said, I've had clients in the past where they hadn't had the most amount of money to get started off with this. However, because they acquired the right knowledge, they went about it the right way, and of course, they didn't restrict themselves to the funds that they had, they were able to, you know, scale, grow the business using the different methods and strategies that I explained earlier on to allow them to start and build the business. So look, this is the information right here I wanted to share with you. If you've taken value from this video, really appreciate it for that like button. And of course, we're putting content out there on this channel right here on a weekly basis. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. On top of that as well, if you are interested in finding out more about how you could potentially kickstart your rent-to-rent service accommodation business, and you may need help doing so, you can feel free to schedule in a call with one of our teams using the link below. So I will let you go and I will let you do your thing, and I'm gonna catch up with you in the next video.